Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Fearless Gear Reviews, the show where I go out and buy a new piece of gear so you don't have to, and give you the absolute honest truth about what it's really about. This is completely unsponsored, there is no corporate fuckery going on whatsoever, and this is actually my first camera review on the show. Now let me start out by saying, I am fucking pissed! I bought this GH6 at Vistek in Toronto on May the 14th, and I was initially very happy with it. However, as I started working with the camera and producing content for the show, it became glaringly apparent that this camera is not ready for public release. Now, just to be clear here, I dropped a grand total of $3,276 Canadian dollars and 99 cents on this camera, and it has several major flaws. One, the video autofocus. Granted, I knew this going in, so it's not that big of a deal. If you're buying a Panasonic camera, it's not because of the autofocus. It's been consistently terrible across all of their mirrorless cameras and is a fucking insult to the notion of autofocus. Panasonic should be honest and just call it focus if the wind is right in your exceptionally lucky mode, because this camera only focuses when it wants to. But one of the other big issues with this hunk of shit is the streaking. Now, I first found out about this issue the day after I bought the camera by an amazing video created by the DP Journey where he highlighted the issue. Now, he's got a great show and I'd highly recommend checking him out if you're in the market for a new camera, because he does not gloss over the flaws. He is a little bit more diplomatic than me, however. Now, my only wish about that video is that it had come out a day or two earlier so I could have made an educated purchase and got myself a Sony FX3 instead and saved myself a whole bunch of grief. Now, even with the streaking issue, it's not a total deal breaker. It's only apparent in extreme dynamic range situations and shots I don't normally make. That is until I did that Epiphone V review and had all kinds of light leaks in the tuner shots. Fuck me. Now, the real atrocity with this camera is during the slow-mo shots, which is the main reason I bought this camera in the first place! One of the GH6's main selling features is the 4K 120 slow-mo. Shots just look cooler in slow-mo, and anytime I need a close-up on a mic or a guitar or anything else I'm doing, it's slow-mo. And you hear people bag on Micro Four Thirds all the time, oh, you're never gonna get bokeh. Okay, fuck that. The great thing about Micro Four Thirds is that if you need to get in close for some really cool B-roll, it is a fantastic format. You can get in extremely close without needing a macro lens like you would shooting full frame. And it's light, and it's got great stabilization, so you can get some really cool close-up handmade shots in slow-mo. But the problem is anything shot over 60 frames per second in 4K is subject to the red laser of death. Let me show you what I mean. Here's something I shot at 72 frames a second. You see this? A red line appears anytime there is something in the darker end of the spectrum. And that's not just at 72, it even does it at 120 frames a second. Now this is a total deal breaker for me because I bought this camera for the fucking slow-mo! Now every shot I take has that red laser of death through it. Hooray! I mean, like, what the fuck, Panasonic? Is it just on my camera, or is it like the streaking issue where it affects all GH6s and nobody's just spotted it yet? Specifically, not even your quality control in the factory, which it should have never got past? Shot after shot after shot, they are all ruined by the red laser of death. Thank you oh so very fucking much! Now this is where it starts to get interesting. I was dumb enough to buy this camera at Vistek in Toronto. Vistek has a wonderful 14-day return policy. You heard that right. Not 60 days, not 30 days. You get a measly 14 days to return your camera. 14 days to find any flaws or issues. 14 days to go fuck yourself, apparently. Now, I do understand. They probably had a bunch of people purchase cameras, use them on projects, and return them. The documentary My Date with Drew was made in this fashion, and Circuit City, remember those guys? They went out of business. They supplied the camera for free due to an exploit of their return policy. Now, Vistek obviously want to protect themselves from this sort of thing. However, it comes at the expense of legitimate customers with real issues with the product that they purchased from them. Simply put, 14 days just isn't enough time to find something like this in a camera this complex. And when did I find out about this? On May 30th. And it's only because my eagle-eyed editor, Jack, pointed it out to me. We were working on the Epiphone review and he's like, dude, what's up with this red line and all the B-roll? He showed me the footage and we spent the next several hours playing with the camera, trying different frame rates, all with the same problem. If the footage goes over 60 frames per second, it's got a fucking red line through it. Now, of course, I found out about this the evening before I was to fly out to LA for NAMM, so naturally, I could only address it once I returned to Canada, which was 2 days ago. Not that it would have mattered, as the 14-day return period was over. Fuck me and my $3,000, I guess. So my only recourse was contacting Panasonic. I reached out to them on Twitter and Facebook. Guess what? I got no reply whatsoever. Figures the one time I'm trying to be journalistically responsible and ask for comments from the company before making video, and I get nothing. So I've basically been fucked over by Vistek's screw the customer return policy and Lumix's policy of just simply ignoring their customers. So I finally got hold of Panasonic's repair center in Mississauga. And what did they tell me? It'll be 2 to 8 weeks for a repair, depending on the availability of parts. Yeah, it's 2022 and there's a chip shortage. I'm sure they're gonna get fixed right away. 2 to 8 weeks. Are you guys out of your fucking minds? I'm supposed to go to Europe this summer in about 4 weeks, and I bought the GH6 to bring with me on this trip as it's fairly light and should do the job I need it to. Just to be clear, my main camera, the one I'm shooting on right now, is the Panasonic S1H, and it's incredible. It's got amazing skin tones, it's full frame, it's got 6K open gate anamorphic, and you guys know how much I love shooting in anamorphic. However, the thing is a fat fucking pig, and the idea of hauling it around Europe for a month just makes my back ache thinking about it. That's one of the reasons I got this fucking thing, because it weighs about half of what the S1H does. That, and I've got a ton of micro 4/3 glass, as I'm a big fan of the GH line. I had a pair of GH2s, I had a GH4, and I shot this show on the GH5 for years on end. The GH5 was a serious workhorse camera and has never let me down. So when the GH6 came along, I thought, oh, it's about fucking time. Unfortunately, it's been a total letdown. To cut through the bullshit, the streaking sucks. The autofocus acts like Sony's simpleton younger brother, but the red laser in the slow-mo is a total deal breaker. Now, if you got a GH6, I'd highly recommend shooting something over 60 frames a second to see if you've got the same issue as well. It doesn't show up too easily in the brighter parts of the image, only the darker parts, but it is most definitely in my shots and ruining them. Now, for all you guys who are regulars to my show and wondering, Glenn, why the hell are you reviewing a camera? You're an audio show. Well, these days I feel like audio just isn't enough. I've reviewed mics, guitars, rack gear, monitors, amps, you name it. But I work with cameras every single day to make this show, and I figure a fresh perspective on a camera might be a good thing, because I'm actually using them to make content and not to make movies that I'm never going to shoot. And I've seen way too many camera reviews that are nothing more than glorified product ads. The only people who mentioned the streaking issue on the GH6 were the DP Journey and Gerald Undone. That is it. And nobody has caught the red laser of death. So I figured, fuck it, why not do a camera review? I'm really tired of seeing the exact same video done on every single camera channel, where it's specs, color science, dynamic range, cinematic, blah, blah, fucking blah, and then a bunch of slut wipes. That's where they show you ungraded log footage or some raw stuff, and then they wipe a lot across the screen. Ooh, colors. It's literally every fucking camera review video. For fuck's sakes, guys, maybe you can show some imagination for once and try not being a fucking clone? Yeah, that'll happen. So that is why I'm reviewing this thing, for a fresh perspective and the fact that I paid $3,000 to be told that I can't use my camera for 8 fucking weeks, while hopefully they fix the issue. No guarantees, of course. Needless to say, I am not very happy at the moment. More than anything, I'd like my money back so I can go out and buy a Sony FX3 instead. A nice light camera with some serious capability and no autofocus issues, or red laser of death, or streaking.
Dude, why didn't you just get an FX3?
Now granted, it does not have the GH6's image stabilization, and that is pretty great. And it also doesn't have the 100 megapixel ultimate detail shots. And I gotta admit, these are pretty impressive. You can take a landscape shot like this, and you can zoom in forever without the picture breaking up. And it's all done in camera. It stitches all the images together. It's a really cool feature. Now, truth be told, as a stills camera, it's pretty great, even if it is only micro 4/3. However, that also has issues. Neither Affinity Photo nor Luminar, the programs I use to edit my photos, support GH6 RAW files, and that fucking sucks. You try pulling up a RAW shot and you get this. That's fucking useful. Now, you can work around with the Adobe DNG converter, but that's just an extra step that's gonna eat up time and waste my time. I don't know who's at fault here, but it really doesn't matter, because ultimately it's just hurting the consumer until this gets fixed. Workarounds suck. I want something that works. Now, don't get me wrong, I did not buy the GH6 for stills. Nobody does. Now, given the track record of the GH5, I thought this would be a slam dunk for features and quality. But I was wrong. The GH6 is a flawed mess, and for the asking price, there are way better options out there, like the S5, like the S1H, as well as the Sony. Canon, well, the R5 looked great until the overheating issue came up. There's no way it would have held up in the 115-degree heat at Hoover Dam like the GH6 did. And the R5C? Well, they removed the stabilizer. Great job, Canon! Now, what I really like about the GH6, it's got a full-size HDMI port and it's got a flip screen, something that the idiots over at Blackmagic Design still haven't figured out how to add onto a camera, even though they've been around for the last 20 fucking years. Seriously, can anybody just get this shit right for once? My advice, do not waste your money on the GH6. In my opinion, it's a piece of shit. It gets a lot right, but it gets a lot wrong too. And for what I need it for, it's an absolute failure. You know, I can't help but feel just a little bit ripped off here. Ripped off because Vistek won't take it back. Ripped off because I spent $3,000 to wait 8 weeks for a repair. And ripped off because I won't have it for my European tour. Now, I did manage to get hold of someone on the live chat at the Panasonic Canada website. They promised me they were going to escalate my case to whoever was in charge. I provided all my details, my email, phone number, and even a copy of the receipt. And as of shooting this video, nobody has bothered to get back to me. Panasonic, if you are watching this, I'm going to be crystal fucking clear here. I need this camera to do my job. 8 weeks for a fix is simply unacceptable. Give me my fucking money back.